So just to start off with, George, tell me what you are, who you are and what you do.
I'm Joshua Council. I'm a co-founder of Good Robot Brewing in Halifax, and we curate quirky beverage experiences for our communities.
Nice. And what's the background of Good Robot? How did you form?
Good Robot, so the three founders of Good Robot, let me back that up one sec. The three founders of Good Robot met while studying engineering, lived together for 4 years, and had a house of misfits. Everyone from the Poutine shop to the nightclub to the art students to the football team worked there. And so we always felt that we had kind of a different crowd than some of the folks we went to school with. And after studying engineering for a few years, we decided to get back together and create a culture and a community that basically serviced the idea of camaraderie for misfits, individualism, come as you are.
Just as a little note to you, so that conversation or the question you said, can you get a copy of this? I'm asking you some questions more about Good Robot. So if you want to do something.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's where my head is right now. Right?
Sure.
So this is for the part for you, not for me, so to speak, right?
That's very kind.
Yeah. And so you talk about it as a community for misfits. What does that mean in terms of the larger beer community? You know, how does Good Robot fit and how have you branded yourself slightly differently than everybody else?
Sure. I think from the get-go, we knew we wanted a very specific type of person, somebody who appreciates being them authentic selves, whether they're wearing, a Carhartt jacket and they ride motorcycles, or whether they're somebody from the queer community, or whether they're somebody who just always feels like, you know what, I need a place to go and just let my heart out a little bit. So we've always focused on folks who might not feel like they belong to the whole. Somebody who's had a bad day at work, somebody who's maybe part of a disenfranchised community, somebody who isn't represented by the typical demographic that you sometimes see in craft beer. So that's what we mean when we want to curate experiences for individuals with a come as you are spirit, is that everyone is welcome as long as everyone has the mantra that everyone is welcome.
So that's a great sort of brand statement, but ultimately brewers are based on how good your beer is, eh? And I've already told you before, I'm a fan, and there's always, I think it's safe to say there's always Good Robot beer in my fridge of one sort or other.
Same.
Yeah. How did you go about making sure that you were actually making quality product as well? It's nice to have a nice brand statement, but if the stuff you're making is no one wants to drink it, then it sort of defeats the purpose, eh?
Yeah.
How do you go about making, as a bunch of engineers, how do you go about making good beer?
Yeah, I mean, this is the challenge of kind of a disruptor in the category, right? You got the big guys are really, really good at the process side of things. They make the same thing over and over, and they do it to a T. And then along comes this sloppy disruptor called craft, which is more about the artistry of it and less of the process. They're experimenting a little more with style, with flavors and whatnot, but they don't necessarily have the money, the capital, the processes, the equipment, etc., to make sure that it's consistent and excellent and free of defects every time. So it's been an evolution. We've definitely made some beers in the past that we're not proud of, but in 2021 we launched a new facility in Elmsdale that's 10 times the size of our original little 800 square foot one in the back there. And now we have a team, many of whom are coming from places like Labatt. We just got HACCP and GMP accreditation, which is one of the highest levels of safety standards that applies to non-alcoholic and export products for grocery stores. So we can get into Loblaws and whatnot now. So over time, the quality and the consistency of the product is consistently improving. Now, all that said, as recovering engineers, we still love to experiment. So the beer I'm holding, actually, the lager, is something that Kelly, our brewer, tweaks virtually every time they create a new batch. Always seeking perfection, always trying to make it a little better, trying to get the sugar content just right, trying to get the barley character just right. So we're always iterating, always seeking improvement.
As that under that mantra of a disruptor, you've done things like you've had some really interesting partnerships with people in the community. Do you want to tell me just about that philosophy, and then we'll sort of use that as a segue to get into Will's story,
Yeah, 100%. We at Good Robot, we like to define a brand as something we call the 5 C's. You got your customers, which of course every company pays attention to. You've got your culture, your internal culture, and we try to strive for a culture first driven customer experience. You've got your competitors and your critics, both people who are making the same thing as you in your category and the people who are consumers who don't like you. And they're important to pay attention to as well. You know, if you want to know how to define a suburban mom, you talk to a skater kid and vice versa. They have a very, very cold, succinct definition of who that person is. And so it's important to understand that as a brand, what the people who don't like you think of you as well. But to your point about the 5th C, community, that is something that is neither a supplier nor a customer. It has nothing to do with the transaction and everything to do with the audiences that you serve and also the neighborhood you're physically in. So community engagement for us is we have many communities. We have our local community within, let's say, 300 meters. We've got various what we call kind of our goodwill communities. So we like to serve the Black community, the Indigenous community. We like to serve the queer community. We like to serve or work with the nonprofit community via our Goodwill Partnerships program. So we've got tons and tons of community, online community. We've got out of province sales, right? So it's community is sort of always a differentiator for a craft brewery because it has a brick and mortar that people live around. It's not typically in a huge industrial park surrounded by nothing. We're a resident between a mosque and a yoga studio, right? So it's important that you pay attention to the community you're in. If you support them, they support you back, and if you don't, when times are rough, you know your business very well could fail.
On that note, I'm just curious. So you guys managed to navigate through. I mean, I say this in all respect and carefulness, because I don't know what kind of impact it, but you managed to navigate your way through COVID somehow. I mean, we did too, right?
Yeah.
You know, that was one of those things, I guess, where that community relationship really helped you, huh?
Excuse me. Certainly the community relationship, that's when you rely on the goodwill of the people you've helped in the past, is when you're forcibly shut down and there's no avenue at the time. You know, we didn't have distribution at stores. This bar was our sales unit, as well as restaurants. They were all forcibly shut down. Revenue went to zero, right? And that's when you launch an e-commerce platform and suddenly all the goodwill partners you've had in the past, your suppliers, your performers who come to the bar and entertain, your existing customers, they all band together and very rapidly throw money at you so that you can keep the lights on, as it were.
And how does that make you, as you, not just Josh, but you as a good robot, and make you want to continue? It's got to feel good. It make sort of that would up your game in terms of wanting to kind of give back or participate. Hey?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd say the highlight of my 2022, the moment that resonates the most, more than any other memory, was working in Uniacke Square and volunteering with Black Women in Excellence, which mentors young Black women in entrepreneurship, and just cleaning offices, giving out turkeys, not tremendously difficult work and not work that had a ton of impact, but just being there and seeing that 2 blocks away from one of our best accounts, one of our best restaurants in terms of sales, is a community that has some people that are struggling quite a bit. And I'm not sure, as businesses scale, how much they kind of get in. It's something that I worry about all the time is scaling with intent.
There's a lot of talk about that in the media these days. Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
There's a lot of talk about that in the media these days, scaling with intent, right?
Yeah.
In respect to immigration, but that's a
real.
Let's talk about Will for a little bit. So is there any other sort of global thoughts you want to talk about the brand of Good Robot? Because again, that bit was for you guys to do with to cut a little social piece about the values of Good Robot. Any other thoughts about Good Robot, where you're coming from or where you're going, that you want to tell me before we start moving on to talk specifically about Will?
I think just like, things, change is part of nature. And there's two things, a smart guy I met once said there's two things in nature that grow without restraint, and that's cancer and business. And business can grow for the sake of growing, it can grow for the sake of distribution and so on and so forth. And so what we talk about with scaling with intent and being deliberate in strategic partnerships and growth and so on and so forth, things will change with Good Robot. We'll lose customers, we'll lose community partners and so on and so forth along the way, which is the way of life. But as long as you are kind of constantly using some kind of compass to guide your decisions, I think we might not always head in a perfect direction, but we're tending to head in one that we feel proud of, and hopefully our customers and community do too.
Just I think you're going to be fine. And I say that that's a lot of your value. If you had to put a value statement, a lot of your values are the same as our values at RPM. Yeah?
Well, you try.
We do a lot of philanthropic work. We do a lot of work for hospitals and mental health and all that kind of stuff. And that's the same intent, right?
And as you know, running a small organization, a nonprofit business, a school, anything, right? There's limited resources, time, people, money, and so you have to choose, what are we doing right now? And sometimes your values, while they're a guiding compass, if doomsday is midnight, and you're, let's say, 2 weeks from bankruptcy, suddenly the how you make values-based decisions can fluctuate, because you gotta survive. So it's a constant struggle. I think the smaller the organization, the more challenging it is in many ways, because you're just, all odds are against you of survival.
You know what the hard part of that though is, and I know you know, because it sounds like you've been there. It's like when there's an opportunity to make a decision that doesn't necessarily fit your moral compass, but not taking it.
Yeah.
We've done lots of those.
And
it's like you're going like, fuck, is that the right thing to do? And then you somehow at the end of it come out, you're still standing, and then.
Yeah. We turned down 2 years ago. We turned down it was about a $750,000 opportunity based on our values, and that was at a time when we really needed the money. Right? So, you have sort of an arsenal of how many of those choices you can make while still trying to keep your place afloat. And I totally feel for anyone, whether they're nonprofit or for-profit or academic institution or whatever, of just trying to do what is right while also is trying to stay alive. That's kind of the whole human struggle in general, isn't it?
Can you do one small thing for me? So we don't put a timestamp on this. You just said 2 years ago. So say you want to post this on social, you want
Right.
to last forever. Say if it was 2001 or 2002, whatever that was, say in 2001, just that one sentence, everything else
Yep.
is good. In 2001, we turned down an opportunity, a lucrative opportunity, because it didn't fit our social compass or whatever.
Yeah, I can redo it if you like.
Just that one bit,
Yeah, sure.
Instead of 2 years ago, was it 2001 or 2021 or 2022?
Sure. So in 2022, we turned down an opportunity based on our compass that was worth about $750,000, and that was really challenging to do at a time we really needed the money. But that's the challenge of having values, whether as an individual or as an organization, is that if the organization or yourself if doomsday's at midnight and you're at 9 o'clock, sometimes you have to make decisions that you don't necessarily feel proud of, but you got to choose something. You got to choose a direction, and you got to stick to your guns and follow it through. So values-based decision making is a very stressful way to live, and you don't always do the right thing. You strive to do what you think is the right thing.